arrest her. That's the only line I can remember about this movie. Hello, huge movie fanatic. Nate coming at you for a movie / Blu-ray review of the Full Moon classic, The Pit and the Pendulum. Now, I've been a Full Moon fan ever since the first movie. I saw the first movie when it came out, Puppet Master. So I've been watching their stuff ever since day one of Full Moon. And obviously, 1991 was a huge year for Full Moon. It was basically more or less their second year. And obviously, things like Crash and Burn, Demonic Toys, and whatever else, Puppet Master 2, and Shadow Zone, things like that, Meridian, things like that were out that year. And any one of those other tapes, like Crash and Burn or Puppet Master 2 in particular, I'd see. But what I'm saying is I've seen this trailer to this movie ever since 1991, and I've never seen the movie until 2016. This movie just never interested in me because I was never really interested in that era of whatever, I was never interested, and I'm still not really interested in this era of whatever, in the times of the supposed Inquisition and all this nonsense, and just being a person who's non-religious and not interested in it and not interested in the era. That's why I never saw this movie. But as they do so often in around 4th of July, FullMoonDirect.com did a smashingly amazing patriotic amazing sale where all their Blu-rays, except for like their most recent releases, were $11. Except which they're normally like $20 or $24. So all their Blu-rays, the majority of them, the older ones, were $11 with free shipping, and I don't pay shipping. So normally when they do their sales, it's like cheap whatever, reduced prices, but you still got to pay shipping. So I never bite when they do that. But this time they actually did free shipping and $11 Blu-ray. So I picked up like 3 Blu-rays, of which that you'll see, I'll probably review later on, not necessarily today, but in the weeks, to come, I would imagine, or months or whatever. I picked up Pit and the Pendulum Blu-ray for $11, and this is my first time ever seeing it. Of course, seeing it in such a pristine, the best way possible doesn't hurt. But anyway, let's get on to the review. Like I say, it's interesting finally seeing this movie because I've seen the trailer, over and over when I watched certain other Full Moon movies ever since 1991, but I've never seen the movie, so that's kind of interesting. So like, it's been like 25 years or whatever I've been seeing this trailer and I have never seen the movie. So having finally seen the movie, basically I'm not a reader. I'm not really a fan of literature or reading. I can read, but I don't really find reading entertaining. I'm more of an audio-visual guy. I like old-time radio programs. I like movies. I like personally seeing or listening to things. So obviously in the credits this said, obviously I'm familiar with the Edgar Allan Poe tale, the Pit and the Pendulum. I didn't know it was a short story. On the credits, opening credits, it says it's a short story. And what I'm getting at is this movie was, apparently based on the short story, which is Pit and the Pendulum. I don't know how long it was. But part of me, if it was short enough, part of me wanted to read it before I did this review so I could compare the movie to the short story. But what I'm getting at is the movie feels very long and drawn out. And maybe, it feels like a movie. Of course, a lot of Full Moon movies do. They basically filmed this whole movie in this one, castle, which apparently was really in, I don't know, Europe, and Charlie Van actually had access to it. They probably filmed this, maybe the same castle that they did with like Subspecies, and I don't know where it was, but at any rate, they were actually in Europe and they're filming in this castle that Charlie Van had access to. So basically the whole movie, which is 90 minutes plus, takes place in this one spot, which kind of gets boring and tedious after a while, particularly since like the whole movie is just about torture. So it's kind of almost like, what is this rated? It is R. I thought maybe it was unrated because it kind of, some of the stuff is just kind of nasty. So basically it's 90 minutes of just watching people, withering and riling and withering and just rotting in caves and torture devices and Iron Maidens and the thing where you put your head in your hands in and just like, and just seeing people like tortured. And the movie opens with a really funny scene, which is like them exhuming some, long rotted skeleton corpse body of someone who the Inquisition now finds guilty, and they string up this corpse skeleton by, its hand, one of his arms completely breaks off, and they string it up by its remaining arm and they whip it to pieces, and it's like, Well, at least they tortured him after he's dead. I'd much rather be tortured after I was dead versus before. I just thought it was kind of funny. And, you know, if this shit really did happen back in the day, I can see them actually doing that, you know, being so sadistic that, and so stupid, really, that they will exhume graves or whatever and to whip skeletons, you know, to string up skeletons by the wrists and whip them with in the back with the whip. Take that, you know, anyway. So I was just, what I'm trying to say is the movie gets off on a, you know, dreary start by whipping a skeleton to pieces, and that's just basically what the rest of the movie is, just torture and whatever. The story is this woman is absolutely gorgeous, who plays this woman in this movie, by the name of, who knows what her name is. Probably this Rhonda D. Ricci or whatever, and her name's not even on the frickin' cover because she's not a star, but this, you know, this lead girl is just like, ooh boy, she's just gorgeous. And basically, you know, her and her husband's a bread maker, they're making bread, and this guy has a genius idea to go sell bread at the, you know, the witch burning that night to try to make more money than not selling it at the witch burning, and they end up getting caught up in the witch burning, and then he ends up being arrested, and then, or she, I don't know. He doesn't get arrested. She gets arrested for, you know, all of a sudden Lance Henriksen's pretty great in this movie as this guy, this evil overlord of the Inquisition or whatever. I can't remember his name. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The evil bald guy with the hair around his head and the pluffing right there, Inquisition guy. He's great as that guy. I mean, whatever. And it should be noted that this is a movie directed by, you know, Reanimator's Stuart Gordon. Stuart Gordon's cool. I mean, Reanimator's obviously fantastic. So she ends up, they make a scene at the witch burning because they didn't want to be there. They kind of just got dragged there by the crowd, and, you know, as the crowd was running to go to the witch burning, and then they're like, oh, and they see that they're disgusted, and all of a sudden they take her and they're gonna, you know, torture her because they think she's a witch, and then the boyfriend or the husband goes in there to try to rescue her, and he ends up getting, you know, at the very end, of course, you know, going in that they're gonna save the pendulum scene, you know, pit and pendulum scene for the very end of the movie, so that wasn't a surprise. But the husband gets, you know, strapped down in front of the, you know, or under, I should say, the pendulum thing, and you see that happen, and I mean, the scene's kind of cool and stuff and whatever, but long story short, like I say, I don't know how short, speaking of short, I don't know how short, you know, the short story is, but like I say, this movie kind of drags, and I feel like it didn't have to be, you know, like if you just make a movie that's like 70 minutes long, you know, Full Moon's been known to make even 60-something minute movies like Robot Wars, so I mean, if it's over an hour, like just 70-80 minutes, it would have been long enough. I feel like the movie's just too long, it drags too much, and particularly because all we get to see is this basically one castle, and all we see is just people just in agony and, you know, either being tortured or having been tortured, and I just feel like it's too long for the subject matter. So unfortunately, I'm only going to be able to go 3 3/4 stars out of 4 stars for Pit and the Pendulum. I just felt, you know, particularly since I don't care about the era, I don't care about the subject matter. I mean, I don't really care about anything about the movie except the woman, the girl is beautiful. But even when you see her naked, it's just in these horrible, nasty, sadistic circumstances when they're like trying to, you know, they rip her clothes off and they're trying to look for like a devil a devil dot or some kind of thing, and the guy's like, there's one. You know, this is just so lame. And the movie actually really pissed me off, and, you know, I would really encourage anyone who is religious to watch this, and maybe they'd change their mind about being religious. It just shows the sadisticness of just what religion can do and to people in their minds and stuff. And I love how, like, no matter what they say, it's always the devil. Like, if, you know, the more they protest, it shows all the more that you're possessed. And it's just like, oh man, you can't win against these people. So, not exactly recommended. I mean, it's not really my kind of fare, except for the naked woman. But again, when she's naked, the scene's not hot. It's just nasty, so you can't even, anyway. So that's my, oh, Jeffrey Combs, of course, is in a part, and I've always said, and I've said it before, that Jeffrey Combs, I think he's way too good of an actor, or at least back in the day, to be in these little bit parts. I think it's always an insult when I see him in a supporting part. I just think that he was so good in Reanimator, and he's just so good in general that I don't like to see him in a supporting part or a really small part. I think that's kind of a slap in his face. On to the review of the Blu-ray, which of course I've never seen any other incarnation of this movie. When the movie first started, I was like, oh my gosh, full moon Blu-rays can go either way, and unfortunately in the years past, like with the Demonic Toys and Dullman and stuff, they have kind of gone the other way where they've had defects and not looking so hot and whatever. And this one, I can say for the most part, this Blu-ray looks absolutely fantastic. And unfortunately, unlike so many of the full moon Blu-rays, which in my case, or at least from what I can gather, seem to be mono. I don't know if I'm right or wrong with saying that or not, but they seem like mono. This movie, I can actually say, I only listen to the 2-channel stereo track, but this Blu-ray, unlike so many, unfortunately, of the other full moon Blu-rays, is actually stereo, I can happily say, or I can happily report. Obviously, Richard Band does the music, which the opening title, like music, is absolutely fantastic. Maybe not so much so the rest of the movie, but the opening title music is just amazing. And it sounds like there's some real instruments there, maybe not so much the rest of the movie, but the opening title music is fantastic. The movie looks absolutely fantastic, like Criterion, would actually have a hard time doing a better transfer than this. One thing that I did notice, I don't know if it's the way, and this is the only version of it I've seen, so I don't know if it's supposed to be this way. Maybe some of you Pit and the Pendulum fans who've seen this movie in VHS or DVD incarnations can tell me if this is the way it's supposed to be, but there's a point in the movie, I can't remember if it's 37 minutes in or something like that, where it goes from one scene to another and it goes black, like it looks like it should go black, and all of a sudden you hear things, people talking, like, oh, hello, here I am, or whatever, and it seems like you should be seeing it. What I'm saying is, there's a point where the movie goes black, and I'm not too sure the movie is supposed to go black at that point, because when it comes back, when the shot comes out of the darkness, it's like I don't know, a half a second or less than a half a second shot of Jeffrey Combs, and then it cuts to someone else. This black part in this movie, which is just for a few seconds, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 seconds, I think is a defect in something that I don't think it's supposed to be black, or at least not for that long. Like I say, it looks like it's supposed to go into black, but it doesn't look like it's supposed to stay black as long as it does. So any of you who have ever seen any other versions of this movie, feel free to let me know if that's supposed to be black that long or at all or whatever, but that seemed like possibly a Blu-ray or a defect of this particular transfer. But other than that, the transfer is unbelievable. It's amazing how gorgeous, and even how good they sounded, how gorgeous these full moon movies actually, were, and we didn't really know until now how amazing they were. And obviously they're famed, used several times. Director of photography was, that Adolfo Baltoro, that guy is obviously the guy who lends this particular movie, like so many of the other full moon movies from the early and mid 90s. It looks absolutely fantastic, and obviously the production, value of that castle that Charles Band had access to made this movie fantastic. So everything about the movie, for the budget is really top notch. Oh, one thing that I almost forgot to mention that I wanted to not forget to mention is Lance Henriksen's bald cap. The guy who did that's like the best bald cap I've ever seen. Like there's no way you'd know it's a bald cap. It's unbelievable. So whoever wants to bald cap, well, that guy might just not be working still anymore, but the guy who did Lance Henriksen's bald cap in this movie, it looks like, it looks like a real scalp. It looks like a real head. It's unbelievable. Amazing. And to be honest, I don't know why Lance Henriksen, especially if he's a method actor, why he couldn't just shave it. What kind of method actor is that? Why not shave your head? Is that you're like half balding anyway? What the hell? But yeah, so I thought, yeah, isn't a method actor supposed to be method and shave his head? But anyway, so it features this little kind of interview from, I don't know, 2013, this really like 8-minute short interview with, what's his name? Stuart Gordon, just standing by a poster of Pit and the Pendulum, just doing some retro, or just just talking about some, you know, memories from the shoot and this and that, things that he divulged, which I feel like should have been kept in dark, but whatever. I guess they can't, you know, arrest him for, you know, this shit now. Actually, it was Albert Band who lied to the customs, so that he's dead. They can't put him. They could drag Albert Band out of the out of his grave and whip his skeletons for lying to the customs people. But anyway, I mean, go ahead and lie to the customs. That's just, you know, they deserve it anyway. So that's, Albert Band got away with that pretty well. So yeah, finally, after seeing this trailer for, you know, 25 years, I've seen the movie. So, you know, now I can. This is exactly why I never saw it, because it's really not my fare. But what I was saying is, it's got that, the Blu-ray's got that 8-minute, recorded in probably 2013-ish interview with Stuart Gordon. It's also got, which is, I'll give him props for doing the full length, like 22 or 23-minute videos on it. It's not just the making of segment like they do on other Blu-rays. They actually include the full video zone on this, which is, I give him props for that. Try to do that whenever possible, full moon. And then, you know, which is kind of goofy, there's bloopers at the end of the video zone, and then they have a separate thing on the special features, you know, rare bloopers. So when you press rare bloopers, it's the exact same, I think, of what you're seeing at the end of the video zone anyway, but I guess it's just an easier way to access the bloopers. So those are the 3 special features. Obviously it says it, like so many full moon movies, it says it features 5.1, but I've never, I mean, I can't imagine full moon reworked 5.1 is anything worth listening to. I've never heard a full moon 5.1 track, so I can't comment on that. But you know, what you're really getting this for is the quality of the picture, you know, and the audio, and you know, the original. I'm more of a purist, so you know, as long as I can have like the original ultra stereo, actually in stereo, which I can say this is, that's, you know, that's all I want. And the picture's amazing. Movie's not so amazing, unfortunately, but the movie looks amazing, so, you know, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. So thank you very much for watching my review of Pit and the Pendulum movie/Blu-ray review, and just like always, I'll catch you next time.